Guthrie. And so as we're following these details as they continue to emerge, I now want to bring into the conversation here Jamie Copenhaver, law enforcement expert. Jamie, thanks so much for being with us here on Live Now from Fox.
Always good to be with you. Thank you.
Let's start with the very basics. Again, we're going back to the fact that we're hearing more information about a new location that the FBI is now canvassing today, still looking for answers as we're now in day 11 of Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. I just want to start with that. Day 11, this new area that the FBI is now talking about them searching. What are you getting from them releasing this information?
You know, number one, they want to be cautious on what they release, but more importantly, they're telegraphing us that they're out searching. Be careful, mind the traffic control devices, if you will, and not run over any of these agents or law enforcement searching. So, we're seeing a lot of streaming online. It's the number one trending story in America right now, I think. So, these streamers are certainly showing this in real time. They're going back to different locations. They're going back to same locations, multiple trips. Just recently we saw manhole covers being dug up, and they were, kind of poking around with a large stick in that manhole cover. They've been, I think, as I understand it, they've done 7 or 8 neighborhood canvasses just in Nancy Guthrie's neighborhood. So, they're being very matter of fact. But here's a caveat. They're trying to leave no stone unturned so nothing is missed in any of these searches.
Absolutely. And so we're looking at what that sort of looked like over the last few days, that intense police presence there. Again, so many journalists are also swarming these different areas. I do want to talk about this because the conversation around some of these letters that have been sent to different media organizations throughout the last few days are some of the pieces that the public is trying to use to figure out where Nancy Guthrie could be. The FBI is also looking into some of this information. But it was released earlier today from Fox News that a third letter was sent to the TMZ founder, Harvey Levin, claiming to know who Nancy Guthrie's kidnapper is. This was shocking when I saw and heard this information this morning. Are you surprised that these letters are still continuing to go out? And what is this person who says that they have this new information? How likely is it that they do know where Nancy Guthrie is at this moment?
A little concerning, and I'm not going to say it's fake or a hoax. A little concerning. FBI has put out a $50,000 reward. Call the tip line. Give your tip and you're eligible for that 50K, right? So I found it a little suspicious that they're sending this to Harvey Levin over at TMZ, but also in the same respect, I can qualify why they sent it. When people call in rewards or tips for rewards, they're very cautious, they're very guarded, they're scared in a lot of times. So, here's the fortunate part about it. That letter has been transferred over to FBI. The FBI data collection team and special agents are going to be on the ground trying to verify where that may have came from. And more importantly, is it legit, right? So, the saving grace, they're not going to just send the 56K to this random person without vetting the person out to see what information they may have. So, they're going to have to come up with a little bit more than we know where she's at.
I'm glad you mentioned that because really, for me, a lot of the conversations that I have to do with the technology that's behind this. So as these folks are sending out these letters, how can the FBI use that information to try to track them? Is Harvey going to have to turn over that physical letter? What are they looking at when they're looking for details to figure out where this originated from?
Yeah, by all accounts, Harvey's been very transparent, and I think Harvey's been very measured in terms of what he's sharing with us, right? So he has the letters, he's read the letters, and, he's been disciplined not to share what he really knows. So kudos to Harvey for that. All that communication was forwarded to FBI, and we know for a fact that FBI data collection agents are on the scene in Tucson, and they're tireless agents and analysts that are working behind the scenes in Quantico and other informational spots. So, it's all hands on deck. As the digital age thrives, technology thrives, right? And tools. So certainly the FBI has a lot of tools to figure out where that possibly came from, to identify the subscriber, if you will, through an IP address, whether it's a MAC address or et cetera. But more importantly, what we don't know, did the ransom letter contain any communication on how to contact that person that authored that letter? That is to be announced.
And so, as we're still waiting for some of those answers, putting back up on the screen some footage that we have that the Fox News drones have been able to capture over this pretty decently large search area. It's not just one search area. That's right, Jamie. They're looking at Nancy Guthrie's home. They've also been looking at the home of Savannah's sister, as well as they've been trying to figure out what clues they can put together. Again, some of these conversations that have been happening is whether or not the FBI or local law enforcement takes time in some of these crime cases, taking it out of just this one, to look at the family and what they might know. Can you sort of explain to people why it's important to look at those close to the person who has disappeared when you're trying to put the pieces together?
Yeah, it's no great secret. We've seen these cases play out for years now, and a case such as this, you're going to look at the family, the immediate family. You're going to look at the family and associates. More importantly, you're going to look at service providers. The lawn care people, the pool people, any nursing or nursing aides that may have cared for Miss Guthrie. So you're going to look at those people, not to point fingers at, but you're looking at those people to disqualify or eliminate them from the pool of possible suspects. So it's very important in that process. I will point out, there's speculation they had been back to Annie Guthrie's house a number of times to conduct searches. Your station reported that, they had seen flashes of photographs going off in the garage. A little bit unexplainable as to that, but, what that does tell me, I have confidence in those special agents on the ground, and literally, it appears they're leaving no stone unturned, and they're looking for clues and new clues every single day in that process.
All right. And so, of course, it is just a waiting game at this point. But I also want to talk about the advancements that law enforcement is making. This was a big deal last night. I'm not sure if everyone had their phone in their hand when the alert went off that a person had been detained and taken in for questioning in connection to this case. Can you sort of talk about what was ultimately found? Because that person, and he revealed himself to be a DoorDash driver, I believe, said he had nothing to actually do with the case.
As to his own utterance or admission, I mean, he is a service delivery person, right? So he, even one of the interviews, said that he may have delivered a package in that neighborhood. I don't think he specifically said the Guthrie home, but he said definitely near that neighborhood. So, is that suspicious? Maybe. The bigger takeaway for me of that is they literally detained this individual, as it has been reported, and took him to interview him, right? The most other mystery in this, they executed a search warrant at the home where he resides. So, that tells me two things. You just don't do a search warrant or execute a warrant without having a search warrant authorized and signed off by a judge. So they would have had to have been some type of probable cause that would convince a circuit court or a federal judge, perhaps, to sign off and give the authority to execute that warrant. So, I'm a little mystified as to what the probable cause was. They would have had to have something more than like a reasonable suspicion to get that warrant.
Absolutely. And there's some video footage. He was actually speaking to the media after this whole ordeal went down. He said, like you said, he just makes deliveries there in the Tucson area, and that investigators asked him about his whereabouts. They said the authorities actually showed the picture of someone wearing a mask, and that, of course, is related to the video that we got yesterday. And so that was the biggest news from the FBI. Kash Patel himself tweeted out videos of this person who they say was tampering with the doorbell camera outside of Nancy Guthrie's home, attempting to, again, cover it up with some sort of plant that they were able to pull from the front yard to disguise themselves as well, wearing a mask fully. And so that's the picture and the latest information we have. Jamie, when it comes to this being out there for now 24 hours, is this going to continue to help this investigation move forward? Or is there sort of a timeline when these big tips come out that you usually see the most activity?
I've said this a number of times. It's organized chaos. I mean, they have so many agents and law enforcement personnel on the ground working. They're divided up. They're grid searching. We have an evidence collection team, perhaps taking photographs inside homes. More importantly, they're not getting sidetracked. They're not getting tunnel vision. And by all the above and all the activity that we've seen in the past 48 hours tells me they're concentrated on a common goal to find Nancy Guthrie and her kidnapper. And they're doing this by a multifaceted operation. Hence, the people searching, the agents that are interviewing neighbors, and of course, that neighborhood canvas that we've seen. It was reported a few days ago that they had a special attraction to a local Circle K not far from the Guthrie home. So, it's literally all hands on deck. And if you really take a look at this from 30,000 feet, you can see all of these elements working the case together in unison, but on different missions, if you will, or objectives in the case. And I think that's very positive.
All right, and so we're still continuing to circulate these photos and videos as the FBI and law enforcement has asked all of these media outlets to do while they're still searching for Nancy Guthrie at this time. Jamie, any final thoughts before I let you go? Again, like you said, it's sort of a hurry up and wait. We're still waiting for more information. Hopefully a break is on the brink.
We're at day 11. Someone may have seen something, and we say it, and we've said it on your air before. If you've seen anything that's remotely suspicious, if something was out of place, call 1-800, call FBI, call the tip line. Let the authorities figure out if that tip and what you've seen is suspicious is actually